Who could Auburn fans expect to enter the portal next week?
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. I'm your host, Zach Blackerby, and thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. We're dapping it up on this Wednesday with Darrell Dapridge, the Montgomery radio legend. We'll talk about Nike, Auburn becoming a Nike school. We'll talk about all the craziness happening with the Auburn basketball roster over the last week or so. But let's kind of project. Let's take a guess. Let's kind of see if we can connect some of the dots as the transfer portal opens less than a week now. It opens on Tuesday, the 16th. Who could be some Auburn Tigers that we could see enter the portal? And obviously, everybody wants to start at quarterback, Darrell. At this point, it would not surprise me to see Holden Geriner enter the portal at any point after it opens.
Yeah, I agree. That was the first one kind of that popped into my head as well. You've got 4 quarterbacks in the room right now that all played during A-Day. And, I mean, I know that a lot of schools like to have 4 scholarship quarterbacks in the room. I just think that the writing's on the wall from a playing stamp. I know that Holden was like officially listed or came in as quarterback 2, QB2 at A-Day, but I just think when you see what Hank Brown, his attributes are, Walker White being so highly touted.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, in this day and age, you just probably read the writing on the wall and figure there's another place you can go to get more playing time.
Sure. Yeah. And so it's a tough situation if you're Geriner, because I don't know if his path to playing time is clear. And I don't know if, I mean, you're really just kind of banking on, okay, hey, I'm a former 4-star guy, like give me a chance, because like the tape that he's put on so far isn't good. And he hasn't been put into a situation to do anything impressive, but he's kind of in a tough spot. And I want to add, we're going to talk about the portal a ton over, throughout the rest of this week. We don't know the true motives for a lot of these players, right? There's a million different reasons somebody can enter the transfer portal. Holden Geriner could just love being at Auburn. He could just love Auburn. He could love the atmosphere. He could be okay being a backup quarterback in the SEC, and that's what he wants. And there's nothing wrong with that. But we're just kind of adding the caveat of like, it would make sense for these guys that we're talking about today to enter the portal. So Holden Geriner is one. Let's transition to running back. I think Brian Battie is another guy where it would make sense, Darrell. And not only that, I mean, we've seen kind of a little bit of maybe a lack of momentum on the recruiting trail when it comes to running backs too. They didn't get one this past class. And then some of these guys that we kind of thought were locks, Alvin Henderson, he's picking up crystal balls and predictions to other schools now. Could this be a situation where if Brian Battie does go into the portal like he did this past December, obviously he came back, does it kind of help Auburn out? It's like, okay, are there some younger running backs that they could potentially use to backfill that position? I think that's worth following.
Yeah, your point about why people enter the portal applies here as well to Battie. There's a depth chart or roster reason that people leave. Is it because there's one aspect of that is people want to be the starters. And if they cannot start at that position, then they move somewhere else where they think they can. There's also just an overall playing time opportunity also. So when you talk about Geriner and Battie, other guys have passed you. So it's not only that you're not starting, you may not be in the 2 deep. And so that's why, when you look at guys like Austin, who has run the ball so well, Jeremiah Cobb's a rising star, that might be the reason, And so it's the same thing with Geriner, Hank Brown, Walker White. So it's not just people always want to affiliate, okay, I'm not starting, so I'm leaving. No, it could be reps and snaps. From a young running back standpoint, I don't know, it depends on how comfortable you are with 3 in the room and then Anshawn Jackson as well. What would still give you 4 running backs that have lettered at Auburn. I don't know. I don't think they do. I don't think they go. You're talking about in the portal or from a recruiting standpoint?
I think in the portal, you need to get a younger guy
That could play 2 or 3 years there.
Yeah, because after
Yeah.
this season, Sean Jackson's a redshirt junior, so he could come back after this season, but Jarquez Hunter will be gone. Damari Austin's draft eligible. He could leave too. And so, yeah, I think you want a guy that you know can be here for 2 or 3 years. I think that'd be valuable.
Especially if you lose out on a Henderson or, the Turbo Rogers guy. That's like, I mean, you've got to add 2 or 3 in the running back room because you lose 2 for sure. So, yeah, I think that makes sense. That may be a good option under the caveat that you get a guy that can play at least 2 years.
Yeah, right. And I mean, if Batty leaves, I think they're going to have to backfill it anyway. You can't go into conference play with 4 backs, but one of them is Sean Jackson. I know some Auburn fans love Sean Jackson. I don't think he's a guy you want taking like relevant snaps in the Iron Bowl. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
So we'll see. But Brian Batty, I think, is a guy that would make sense. And also like the kick return aspect that Batty brought that we were so excited about. I don't know. Do you feel like he did enough just to be on the roster to be a kick returner from what he did a year ago? I think he kind of underwhelmed us a little bit comparing what he did at USF to last year. I don't think he quite lived up to, what he could be as far as that dynamic kick returner that we saw. Wide receiver could be very interesting because you can make the case for Coy Moore. You can make the case for Jay Fair, and you can make the case for Caleb Burton. All guys that we've kind of seen these newcomers, both Robert Lewis and Sam Jackson, the transfers, as well as Cam Coleman, and to some extent, even Bryce Kane, the true freshman coming in. I think you can make the case for those guys over, some of these incumbent guys. And so to me, we heard Freeze talk about these guys not being as available as he would like. And maybe that's why we didn't see as much of them at A-Day, or it could be deeper than that. Who knows, Daryl? But all 3 of those guys, it would not shock me if they entered the portal.
We speculated when this great wide receiver class came in, was it going to force guys that were returning players and veterans to move on when they looked around the room and reality hit and said, I'm behind a freshman, or I'm behind another transfer. Mm-hmm. And in this case, Sam Jackson, Robert Lewis, and Cam Coleman, in my opinion, have emerged as 3 receivers that are going to be in the top 4, along with Cam Brown. Now, this is all before Perry Thompson and Malcolm Simmons gets on campus. But right now, I think those are your top 4 receivers: Cam Brown, Sam Jackson, Robert Lewis, and Cam Coleman. Well, it isn't too hard to figure out that the 3 guys you just mentioned aren't in that list. Yeah. And if they're not in that list and they're returning, then it's, again, another, motive or incentive to look elsewhere for them.
Yeah. And once again, depends on what they want. They could love being at Auburn and all of that. They could love it and not want to leave. That there are other elements. But as far as just the pecking order and the depth chart, yeah, because even the future of it, Sam Jackson has another year of eligibility after this. And then obviously these freshmen are just going to get better. Right now, you may just be battling with Cam Coleman and then we think Perry Thompson for reps. But Bryce Kane and Malcolm Simmons, they're not going anywhere. They're only going to get better and more, relevant as far as these competitions and these battles for reps and market share of targets and all of that. So I'm with you. I think all 3 of those guys would make sense to enter the portal, but we'll certainly see. Certainly see what happens with them.
Here's an aspect of this, though, that sometimes we don't want to say out loud, but it happens.
Okay.
Is I was talking to a former player that knows a lot of the coaching staff really well a couple of days ago. And when I started getting text messages about potential portal departures, I think we all need to understand that in this reality of college football, there are times where just because you love Auburn and are satisfied being 3rd string, there's roster spots available that the coaches may come to you and say, get in the portal. Mm-hmm. Nudge. I mean, you can't officially or you can't make somebody leave. Okay. I'm just being, you can't do that, but you can strongly suggest, I think it's best for you to get in the portal. I know you love Auburn, but we could really use that roster spot and make it very, very persuasive. And that happens. And anybody that thinks it doesn't, I mean, people did that back when Nick Saban it was just a transfer, not even a portal. Yeah. I think it'd be best if you transfer. It happens. It's a little bit uncomfortable to talk about, but in this day and age of college football, like I said, it goes both ways.
Well, it's better to do it now than, pre-portal era. Now, at least they can probably use
Right.
the opportunity, maybe make more money elsewhere. Typically, transfers make more money than the guys you have already on the roster. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But yeah, just kind of wanted to glance at the skill positions there on offense as far as guys that could potentially enter the portal next week. Auburn is a Nike school, and most people are excited about it. And Daryl's got a bunch of different reasons why you should be excited about it. That's coming up right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. Daryl, the MLB season is here. Your Pirates a little bit better than advertised. Congratulations.
Thank you.
To you. Yep. And it's playoff time just about in the NBA, in the NHL. And FanDuel is your place to bet on every single game. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150, win or lose. You can bet on anything from slap shots to home runs to slam dunks, all in an app that's safe, secure, and easy to use. What are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to make your first bet an automatic win. FanDuel is America's #1 sports book. All right, Daryl. You've wanted this for a long time. I've wanted this for a long time. A lot of Auburn fans have wanted this for a long time, to get away from Under Armour and to go to Nike. John Cohen, Auburn AD, as well as just Auburn athletics as a whole, announced yesterday that starting in July of 2025, Auburn will begin a 10-year contract with Nike. I think this is great from a branding point of view. I think it's great from a recruiting point of view. I think it's great selfishly. I just like Nike clothes better than Under Armour clothes. I like every aspect of this, Daryl.
Yeah, retrospectively, looking back at this, it's fun to kind of take a look back. When Auburn went to Under Armour in 2005, there was a lot of people that were excited. They had the Protect This House ad campaign, click, clack.
Click, clack.
Auburn was going from Russell to Under Armour,
right?
Which was a big thing. It was like going from olive oil to a supermodel. So I think that you got to look back. Okay, so now a lot of people are saying, what's the big deal? Why are Auburn fans and everybody getting so excited and up in arms about this? Why? I've seen some Debbie Downers about it. Well, I'm here to tell you a few reasons why it's important and why it matters. Number one, we live in a day and age of just exposure, of people just seeing things and being absolutely overtaken by images and image, right? And so kids love the swag and being aligned with things that are important and that are culturally cool. And right now, I'm just being honest, Nike is that and has been for a very long time. So just the image and the branding that you mentioned, being affiliated and in partner with the cooler branding is important. Number two, when you talk about kids and swag, that trickles down to recruiting. There have been already on social media former players at Auburn that said, man, I wish we would have been a Nike school when I was there. And don't think it doesn't affect recruiting. It does.
Daryl, I got a text from a few players, more than one, when the news came. And some of them were like, dude, finally, some were a GIF. And I would ask them, just confirming this is about the Nike thing. And they said, oh, yeah, I can't wait. So, this is something that they're celebrating within the program, too.
If you're a kid and things matter like swag and exposure and popularity, you as a recruit want to play in Nike uniforms and Nike shoes or Jordan shoes. There's still a loophole, by the way, from a basketball standpoint. I double checked on that about an hour ago that Auburn could wear Jordans from a basketball standpoint. I'm not talking about the uniforms, I'm talking about the shoes. There is a way to do that. So, that people want that. Kids, it matters. Kids see that and it's important to them. That can only help recruiting. Okay, sure. Then from an overall, I guess you'd say, superior equipment aspect of it, Nike has a reputation of being better quality with things like uniforms and shoes, cleats, that kind of thing. I'm not even going to talk about the softball fiasco with Under Armour. I don't want to badmouth anybody. I'm just saying there is a perception that Nike has better quality when it comes to outfitting uniforms for athletes. They just do. They also can turn things quicker. If there's anything that needs to be done special, a special commemorative jersey or something like that, you've seen all the different Nike combinations.
Orange jerseys?
I'm not saying that, but I do
You're saying
know
orange jerseys are a possibility, Daryl?
I'm not. I'm just saying that if you wanted to bust something out from a commemorative throwback jersey, it's easier to do with Nike because they make so many different combinations. Just look at Oregon or any of these other schools that have all these different. That's why, and it's easier to get. It's a little quicker turnaround. And then the fourth thing is fans, the fan apparel. I know a lot of people that just were not comfortable in Under Armour things, and they used to be a really, really good product, but fit, style, availability. There is so many more products out there for Nike schools for fan gear than there was Under Armour. It's just a fact. And again, I'm not dogging Under Armour. They were the bomb when Auburn switched, but look, sideline gear for coaches. Again, I'm not just speaking. I know because I see and I'm exposed and have people that are in the industry that I know that I can talk to about it and look at things and look at catalogs. It's just a completely different deal. It just is. I mean, I was shown one time a catalog for coaches from Nike that coaches get to choose their gear. And then I was also shown what Under Armour offers for coaches. It's night and day. The availability and the choices are night and day. So all four of those things, it does matter, and it does create a buzz. And at the end of the day, if it helps the exposure and the image of your school, it can only be a good thing.
I'm with you, and I love that Freeze was asked this a few weeks ago about how the apparel partner impacts recruiting, and he kind of shrugged it off. He said that, hey, we've been able to recruit well, regardless of who, the apparel partner is. And with football, that might be the case. But with basketball, I just do not see how this doesn't help Bruce Pearl and the Auburn basketball program. I just don't see an avenue where folks are more fired up to wear, even if it's just Nike, even if it's not Jordan basketball shoes, but wearing Nike basketball shoes and playing at Auburn. It's got to help basketball more than anything else.
Do not underestimate the Nike Select tournaments now that Auburn could be, and its recruits and some of that kind of thing that Auburn would be eligible for as well. There's some things out there from a Nike branding standpoint in tournaments and summer leagues and all that kind of stuff that opens up, I think, a whole new avenue for recruiting for Bruce Pearl.
Yeah, which you take. We take those, no question about it. So all in all, we think it's good. Let us know your opinions on Auburn moving to Nike from Under Armour in the chat or in the live chat or in the comment section down below. Genuinely curious. We talked about portal opening next week for football. It's already been open for basketball, and it's just getting crazier and crazier, Daryl. We'll talk about that next right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show brought to you by our friends at Game Time. Game Time is our favorite place to buy, favorite way to buy tickets. Daryl, doesn't matter if it's for sports, if it's for a concert, if it's for the theater, it doesn't matter what it is. You and I have both used Game Time over and over and over again. You've talked about it before, Daryl, how easy it is to use the app.
I just used it 2 hours ago, going on a business trip to the New England area, Boston. Don't be jealous, an area that in the summer, jealous. And got a little Red Sox Phillies tickets for that trip to take a client, and it was on my app, and it took so much less time than how we did it last year, going through a third-party ticket vendor and didn't get the right seats. It was a disaster, and that's true. We did it with Game Time. I ordered them 2 hours ago, and we're good to go. A little Fenway Park against the Phillies, ready to go.
I love that. And another aspect of it is if you are traveling for business and maybe it's not something you plan to do, but you're in town and it's like, oh, there's a game tonight. You can pull up Game Time, and they are the pros when it comes to last minute tickets as well. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege. That is a different code than it has been. LOCKEDONCollege. All one word for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. So the latest Auburn basketball news at the time of us recording this, Aden Holloway has entered the portal. The writing was on the wall. We all kind of assumed this when the season was over. But now Auburn is in a situation where both of their point guards have entered the transfer portal, Daryl.
Yeah, not surprised. I think I was a little bit more surprised that Donaldson entered and that he entered first than I was Aiden. I mean, we heard reports that he kind of ghosted the coaching staff and wasn't around. Donaldson, on the other hand, has been hanging out with his teammates, been at baseball games, has been very prevalent on campus still. I think Auburn's going to have to go get 2 point guards now. And I know the two biggest targets that everyone knows is J.P. Pegues from Furman and Miles Rice from Washington State. Auburn's not going to get both. Whoever comes wants to be the guy with the best NIL package. So Auburn will get one of the two, hopefully. And then at that point, you figure, well, how do you backfill the other point guard position? Look for Bruce Pearl to do something similar to what he did with Chad Baker-Mazara last year at the 3 position, and maybe get a kid in the JUCO ranks that's a high riser that's willing to come in and play 15 minutes a game and learn and back up Rice or Furman. Don't forget also Denver Jones can play some backup point. But I think Auburn would prefer to let him strictly play the 2. And then you got Pettiford coming in, who, although he's listed as a point guard, is not. He's a 2 guard. There's your backcourt. But you've got your shooting guard set. You need 2 point guards. And so I think that's what Auburn will do. And then you've got the whole waiting game with Cardwell and Broome right now.
Well, let's talk about the centers in a second. As far as those 2 point guards that you mentioned, it seems like they're both priorities. And like you said, I don't think they can get both. I do think they need to get one. If they don't get either, I do think that could be an issue. But when you look at Rice and you look at Pegues, which one do you prefer? Which one do you think fits this system more?
Well, it's a great question. Pegues is a better shooter. He's a pure shooter, but he comes from Furman, which is a mid-major. Miles Rice came from Washington State, and they had one of their best years they've had in a long time. Power 5 school, and he was Pac-12 freshman of the year. He's more of a slasher, Zach. He gets to the rim. They both are prolific scorers. I like Rice, and I like Rice because I was able to watch him more in the Pac-12. He also played at a program that got to the NCAA tournament that was a little bit paid better competition. Washington State almost won the league, and it was a lot of credit to that was given to Rice, that they were that competitive and made the leap that they did from last year to this year. So that's why I like him. He's a pure scorer. He can shoot. He's just not as good a shooter as Pegues, but he's a scorer. And again, I've told you this before. I don't give a crap how you put 2 in the basket. Just put 2 in the basket. Whether it's from, I'm the guy that falls in love with the mid-range jumper, whether it's a layup, a mid-range. Now at some point you're going to have guys that can hit threes. I think Auburn has that with Pettiford and, Denver Jones. Maybe you get a JUCO guy that's the backup that can hit it. But I
Chad
love
Baker-Mazara, he could be better from 3 as well. So I'm
Chaney Johnson. Listen, I would be happy with either. I would be thrilled with either, but I'd lean more towards Rice because of those factors.
Okay, I got it. And then as far as the development with Auburn centers, Johni Broome and Dylan Cardwell, what's the latest you're hearing there?
Well, I think there's a real possibility and a real avenue for both to come back. I think they're weighing options. I don't, you hear all this scuttlebutt about, is it Broome? He has been pursued by other schools, blue bloods that want him to get in the portal. I think that the biggest thing I've heard is there is talk out there of him sliding to the 4 position, playing power forward instead of the 5, where he's more valued or coveted at the NBA level. You think about it, he's 6'9", 6. That's a perfect 4 power forward in the NBA. So his pathway to the league may be as the 4. And so if Auburn can say, listen, come back, here's a sweet NIL package, we'll move you to the 4, then that also gives Cardwell some incentive because then he could slide into the starting lineup. Any scenario, I think if you're Auburn, though, you better go out and get you 1 4 or 5 or a 4-5 combo for a backup. We saw how important Cardwell coming off the bench was for Auburn this year in that depth. And then you got Chaney Johnson at the 4 and a Darren Scott who, didn't get a lot of minutes last year, but I think that they think he could increase his playing time. Cardwell improved. So I think the first domino to fall is Broome. If Broome stays at the 5, then my confidence level of keeping Cardwell is a little bit lower. If he slides to the 4, I think there's a path to keep both of them on the court at the same time.
Yeah. So we will certainly keep you updated here on Locked On Auburn. It is transfer portal season in the two major sports, and we'll take you every step of the way with daily shows. So be sure to like the video. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Daryl, how can people check out everything that you've got going on?
Follow me on X, DAP6410. I'm on with you Wednesdays and Fridays, and then I'll be doing some periodically just some written work for Auburn Daily, writing some things. I want to wait till all this basketball stuff kind of plays out. Might do a basketball-centric look ahead and recap type thing. A DAP recap, I guess we could call it.
A DAP recap. Let's go. Recap with DAP. Oh, there's something there. There's something there. Yeah, please check out all of our stuff at auburndaily.com. Please subscribe. We will see you tomorrow. This has been Locked On Auburn.